She has kept 35 pounds off for 13 years through retirement, traveling the world, and then COVID, and is still going strong. It's not often that you get the lowdown on what it takes to stay consistent with your weight maintenance. But in my Thin Thinking interview with Shift Weight Master Janet Stevens, you will hear some key tips that will empower you to do the same. Coming up, did you know that our struggle with weight doesn't start with the food on your plate or get fixed in the gym? 80% of our weight struggle is mental. That's right. The key to unlocking long-term weight release and management begins in your mind. Hi there, I'm Rita Black. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, weight loss expert, best-selling author, and the creator of the Shift Weight Mastery process. And not only have I helped thousands of people over the past 20 years achieve long-term weight mastery, I am also a former weight struggler, carb addict, and binge eater. And after 2 decades of failed diets and fad weight loss programs, I lost 40 pounds with the help of hypnosis. Not only did I release all that weight, I have kept it off for 25 years. Enter the Thin Thinking podcast, where you too will learn how to remove the mental roadblocks that keep you struggling. I'll give you the Thin Thinking tools, skills, and insights to help you develop the mindset you need, not only to achieve your ideal weight, but to stay there long term and live your best life. Hello, and welcome to today's Thin Thinking podcast. I am so excited. Yesterday, I opened the doors to the V2 version of the self-study of my Shift Weight Mastery process. V2 meaning the better, faster, not the faster, but the better, more evolved version of the Shift Weight Mastery process online. It's on an amazing learning platform. There's an app that goes with it that gives you easy access. So I'm super excited. So many of you are signing up for this special grand opening offer, which is basically, it is a self-study course, but I am guiding whoever would like to be guided through it. We're doing a 30-day process guided by me with a community of others. It's all online. And there's also some extra bonuses for signing up for the grand opening. So if you're hearing this before September 28th, 2021, please check out the link below in the show notes. One of the coaches for the live process will be our community's own Janet Stevens, whose interview about long-term weight maintenance I am sharing with you today. I met Janet over 13 years ago. I had just started doing my 30-day hypnosis-based weight loss process as a live event, and it was 30 days, meaning we did this live event, and then there was a 30-day follow-up with hypnosis and meditations and daily coaching. And Janet had only signed up because her friend Evelyn had already released over 30 pounds. And she had been seeing me on one-on-one for hypnosis. And so the two of them were going to do the process together. And Janet I remember when she came to see me, I don't know if she remembers this. I think she does because she mentions it in our interview, but Janet was really skeptical about me and about hypnosis. And I think she was only there because, her friend Evelyn had done so well and they're such best friends. And she was like, okay, I'm going to do this thing with you. So I think Janet gets into the interview like she was like, yeah, I didn't know about this hypnosis thing. But Janet proceeded to get over her skepticism and released 35 pounds over the next few months. But what is so cool, or actually 30 pounds, and then she has actually released more in the last few years. She's down 40 pounds now. But what is so cool is that both she and Evelyn have kept their weight off for 13 years through retirement, traveling, pandemics, all that stuff. And it's so cool that they're buddies and that they've really become very powerful masters of weight management. And you will love Janet's zest for life. She's very infectious and fun. And you're going to hear about all these fun things that she has been up to, including becoming a body groove coach. So she has become a health leader in her own right. And she's got a lot of wise words of wisdom regarding the attitude it takes to keep the weight off long term. Okay, so I have here the famous Janet Stevens, who has been shifting for over 13 years. And when I say that, I mean Janet is, as I said in my intro, she released her weight and has been maintaining her weight for about 13 years. So welcome, Janet. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And as I know you guys are just hearing us talk, but I'm looking at Janet and I'm seeing her beautiful home. She lives in Wrightwood, California, which is up in the mountains. And I'm seeing her beautiful trees and her background and everything. So, Janet, but when you came into the shift, you were still in LA and you were still a teacher, right?
Correct.
Yeah. And that was over 13 years ago, which seems crazy to me. Tell our listeners like a little bit about your journey in your struggles with weight before you came into the Shift Weight Mastery process.
Okay. Well, as a kid, you run around, you're fine. Hit puberty, all of a sudden, my parents are telling me not to eat so much. And it really broke my heart when I realized, and the struggle got even worse in high school, on one diet after another.
Yeah.
And I just, my whole life before Shift, I was on some diet or other or off,
Right. What was your, tell me about the silliest diet that you think you ever were on before you found the Shift?
Well, okay, probably the silliest. Well, I went to diet doctors too, which is ridiculous. You're living on 500 calories a day. I was like, what the?
Oh my God.
Of course you lost weight. What I mean?
What did they have you eating for 500 calories a day?
Basically, like you said, chicken breast and broccoli, Practically. But of course they gave you appetite suppressants and
right.
And like this weird protein soup and, just bizarre. Not life at all.
Right.
Not life at all. But probably the most bizarre one, and it wasn't that bizarre to begin with, but it was the Atkins diet, and I just did it from the book.
Uh-huh.
He said that when your weight loss, and I lost about 15 pounds and it like tapered off,
Mm-hmm.
And the suggestion was to eat cream cheese and macadamia nuts.
Oh, right.
So somehow, like with the fat thing, I don't know how it worked exactly with Atkins, to like boost you into
ketosis.
Ketosis, yeah, to boost you into ketosis. That's exactly right. And I was like, are you kidding me? Who doesn't like macadamia nuts, but right. It was crazy when, that's all you were eating. And that I just like, well, this is bizarre.
Yeah, I know. Well, I think it's very interesting because I think a lot of people are doing ketosis this day and the Atkins and everything. And, low carb diet does help, as I know, because you've been fairly, not no carb, but I know, in order to manage your weight, and we can talk about this, you've managed carbs in a different way than you did before doing the shift. But yeah, those super low carb diets, they seem very interesting in the beginning, but they're pretty hard to maintain and to live a real life. Yeah. So I know you came into the Shift Weight Mastery process with your good friend Evelyn, and Evelyn had lost some weight, and you both are still friends, and you both I know you both coached in the last shift, and you've both maintained significant weight losses for a long time. And you guys, I think you guys both came to my second, or one of my first Shift Weight Mastery processes.
Thing. Yeah.
And I remember our meeting because I had you come into my office originally to have your metabolism tested, as I did with, all my seminar people. And I know you were a little wary and skeptical about hypnosis, right? Like you were, so tell me a little bit, like what made you decide you wanted to go through this, and what your, thoughts were about hypnosis before actually going through the process. Do you remember that at all?
I do. Like I said, I've been on, yo-yo dieting my whole life. Well, towards the end, when I hit menopause, I just like totally gave up and was angry about it. Why should I be thin? And just let myself get heavy.
Yeah.
And I had just given up. And like you said, my friend Evelyn had gone to you, which is hypnotism before your program that you were working with somebody else and got started on it.
Yeah.
And she was having success, but I was still holding off, like, no, I don't care. It's not for me,
Right.
all this stuff. And then the seminar that you did that weekend, your first, it may have been your second, I don't remember, but like, I said, okay, I had just reached it. I go, this is it. I have to do something. Mm-hmm. And I am committed. I'm going to I'm paying this money. I'm going to make this program work.
Yeah.
And I had seen Evelyn have some success too. So that helped, and but like you talk about, commitment is everything.
Yes.
It's your own commitment to the program. You decide you're going to do it. But what's great about Shift, and with your program that was different, I'm getting off the hypnosis thing, is that like you make it your own.
Yes.
You give us the skills, but you don't tell us you have to count calories or you have to do this or you have to exercise. You just say, these are the skills. This is the way it works.
Right. Exactly.
And like you said too, sometimes you don't do all the 9 skills.
No.
You pick out the ones that work for you. And as long as it's working for you.
Yeah, it works.
Yeah.
I think that's a really important for those of you who are listening who may be new and don't know, all about the Shift Weight Mastery process. It's based on the 9 skills of weight mastery, which I didn't make up, but are really based on data research into what I would call the skill set of long-term permanent weight management. So what Janet's talking about is, as with any skill set you learn, you aren't always using all of the skills at the same time, but that you have ones that work, like that you're focusing on or working the best for you. And I think the main challenge most people have with diets is that diets are sort of these things that you go on and you're either good or bad on them, rather than really seeing weight management as skill building, which is what we focus on. And using hypnosis as a way to get your mind, which might probably more than likely have resistance, have bad beliefs and habits, to start to shift your beliefs and habits around that.
You did ask me for hypnosis, and I kind of went off on a different tangent.
Oh, no, that's fine. This is a conversation. This isn't, an interrogation. Yeah. So please feel free
to. It was hypnosis for me. And I just kind of, like I said, I embraced the whole program. I'm in it 100%, whatever, And I found that hypnosis wasn't as scary as I thought maybe it would be.
Right.
And like, it was just you working with yourself. Mm-hmm. And I just remember on one of the first seminars I went to after losing my initial weight, or releasing that initial 30 pounds. And you asked me to coach this one time, and I just thought it was really funny because this new couple is a husband and wife, young people, caught me in the parking lot and says, so does this hypnosis really work? I'm like, well, it's what you make it.
Uh-huh.
But I will say, it's like, if you let yourself totally get into it, it's not like, it's like a really subtle.
It's not magic, and it's not a wave of the wand.
All of a sudden, you don't have these horrible, horrible urges.
Right.
You have more willpower, if you call it willpower, but you have more. You can resist because you've already like done the subliminal stuff that like helps you. Yeah.
Well, yeah, hypnosis really gets you mentally aligned with your own goals and vision. Yeah. And I think gets a lot of our fear, because I think a lot of what comes up for people when they're making these changes initially is fear that they're going to fail, fear that they're going to feel deprived, fear that they're, it's always going to be hard.
Right.
And you recognize, and like you're saying, you really long-term permanent weight management is a relationship with yourself.
Yes.
And
The thing about the hypnosis is it's not somebody doing it to you.
yes,
You're a guide, but I was the one.
exactly. And I say all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. You accept the I can't make anybody do anything, or else, my house would have been cleaned yesterday when I came home from being away for the weekend, taking my daughter back to college.
Right.
I remember, Janet, like talking about my daughter being in college. Like my daughter was literally like 6 years old, I think, when I began working with you, and now she's off in college. That's how crazy time flies.
Oh, yeah, I know.
And you were not embarked on retirement yet. And now you've been 10 years, you were just telling me, into retirement, which is awesome. You've moved.
3 more years of working, and that's a different challenge, but
You've gone through a lot. I remember when you came into the shift, you were working and you were very social. Like, I know you and your husband were traveling, and I know you're still traveling. I know we had COVID, so I know you weren't traveling last year. But like, that's what I think is such a testimonial to your shift and your weight maintenance, is that you went through retirement, you traveled the world, you've been very involved in a lot of different things. You're very social, and you've managed to keep not 30 pounds off, but you were telling me like you've released even more weight. And I'm sure people are dying to know, like, what do you think for like consistency and longevity with weight management? What are the things that you think have been the most helpful for you, not just from shift, but just from your own life experience? Like, if you were to say, what were the things that have made the difference then, like before you embarked upon your weight mastery journey? What are the things that have been working the best for you?
I'm one of those. Me, it's a lot of consistency.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a person who weighs myself every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I, try to stay the scientist and not get upset about it, but like, it helps me stay on track. That's what gets me. I have problems on vacation. Weigh myself every day. And I feel it gives me a sense of control.
Right. So what you're saying, and this is, and I'm just going to stop and pause and say this for our listeners. What Janet is talking about is like it's not a skill of weight mastery, but what is a skill is staying on top of the facts.
Right.
And because I think a lot of people shy away from weighing themselves because, getting on the scale can be an emotional experience, especially if the news isn't good.
Sometimes, I'm like, oh.
But what we learned in the shift is that, and again, this has been consistent throughout all the data people have managed their weight over time, is weighing yourself. And I know there's a whole school of thought of like, don't weigh yourself, throw away your scale and everything. But I think the difference is the way we weigh ourselves isn't from, am I good or am I bad? Does my weight say that I'm a good person or a bad person? But it's really more as a scientist, because we really look at the science of weight release. And when you are in the driver's seat, then you have the control. So weighing yourself is part of this. So I love that has been part of your consistency piece.
Right. Yeah. And it just helps me stay in control. Another thing, and I don't do it all the time, writing down this, tracking my food.
Right.
And I use the Lose It app. But then after I've been tracking for a long time, and if I get away from it, I'm doing it in my head.
Yes. So you're always tracking, right? Or you're always mindful of what you're doing.
Yes.
Yes. And I agree with you. Like, for me, because I've been, maintaining my weight for many years too, is that there are many times I track with Lose It to be very consistent, because maybe I've gained a couple of pounds and I need to get them off, and I need to be very clear about what I'm eating. But then when I'm maintaining my weight, and there's times where I don't really need to be super on top of it, but I'm always mindful, because so much of weight management is, and again, goes back to the data, being really clear on how much energy is going in and how much energy is going out of your body. And Janet, you and I are both like in phases of our life where our metabolism has gone down. Like, since I've met you, my metabolism has gone down probably 300 calories a day. And if I wasn't aware of what was coming in and going out as far as, calories in, calories out, honestly, I probably would have gained weight, but I've maintained my weight through, a metabolic slowdown, as have you, because we're staying with the science of it. We're just staying clear on the facts. And I know a lot of people are very resistant to tracking, but most people who come into the shift and who are like, I don't want to track, I don't want to, end up being the biggest converts to like, oh my God, this is so eye-opening and so amazing.
Right. And it doesn't have to be that hard, because like I said about consistent, another thing I'm pretty consistent about is I pretty much have the same breakfast, a very similar lunch, a very, dinners can be different, but they're sort of the same thing. And it's not that hard to track,
Yeah.
And of course, keeps track of your meals. You can just put the same meal. You don't have to write down every single thing all the time.
Yeah.
And also staying consistent in my food. I'm a kind of person who can eat the same thing every day, with some little variations and stuff. And it just, that kind of consistency makes it easy too.
Yes.
Like, I know what I like. And basically I just like meats, vegetables, fruits, and a little bit of carbs. And okay, but about environmental is important too. Ever since I've been on shift, bread is not allowed in my house, and neither are desserts, and unless it's like fruit or something like that. But it works, and I have them when I have guests and things like that. But my husband even is a convert. He knows there's no bread in the house.
Yeah,
we do have tortillas, but that's because we can resist them. They have to be warm. You can't just grab it. And it's me that it makes a big difference if you just, some kind of meat, and of course the portion control, good amount of meat, a vegetable or a salad, and maybe some brown rice or and it's like just over and over, kind of the same.
Right. Thing. Well, I think the thing is that what you're talking about is you've created a way of eating that you own and that you love. Like I don't tell people stop eating bread, or I don't say people don't have desserts, but there another skill that, again, across the board with people who have been successful is what we would call stimulus control. And that's what Janet's talking about, is if it's a trigger for you, then why would you have that in your environment? Because your brain is always going to be thinking about that food. You're always going to have you're going to have to be managing it in some way. If you don't have it in your environment, you don't have to manage it. And for a lot of people who do the shift, and I know they find out that certain carbohydrates make them hungrier, make them think about food more. And so it's not like you can't have bread, but they find that when they eat a lower carb diet, they aren't thinking about food anymore. They are able to eat fewer calories and not feel like they're missing out, but they can still have things like dessert and things that work for them when they make that work for themselves. So
I keep it out of the house. I will allow myself to have bread maybe when we go out once in a while, but I mean, not the whole bread basket, but
right.
It's not in my house calling my name.
Right. Yeah. I mean, life's too short to be thinking and obsessing about food. Walking by the cupboard and going, oh, should I eat that bread? Should I not? Should I have that treat? Should I not? There are plenty of things, like you said, that you can eat that you love. Yes. You can have in your house. I think that's another shift I wanted to ask you about, is the mindset piece, maintain your weight all these years. I know that you've kind of cultivated a powerful inner coach within yourself. How did that, I guess, what would the question be that I would want to ask about your inner coach? It's like, over the years, over these 13 years, would you say that your inner coach relationship has stayed consistent, or do you think it's gotten more powerful? Do you think, you and your inner coach have become more the same person as you've gone along? Like, in the beginning, in Shift, FYI, people who are not familiar with the program, we really get you communicating more powerfully with yourself by cultivating this idea of an inner coach, this part of you that you learn to trust and respect that keeps you sort of on track. So your relationship with your inner coach, Janet, like, how did that relationship evolve?
Actually, this is one of my favorite parts of Shift.
Uh-huh.
And it's like an awakening. You always feel, and you've heard about the inner child and all this stuff, but you really woke it up for me in the education that you did for us in that first seminar. And I was so excited and thrilled to learn about the rebel, the inner critic. And I understood the concept you're starting to say about the inner coach. Yeah. But what I learned is to integrate them all. They're all parts of me. Mm-hmm. And what I learned through Shift is that I have to honor what that rebel wants.
Yeah.
And I have to be grateful and thankful for what my critic is trying to do for me. Maybe not in a very nice way, but
right.
He taught us as our inner coach how to deal with them.
Right. To manage them.
Yeah, if the rebel's saying, I want that cookie, and you're just like, no, you can't have that cookie. No, just shut up, rebel. It's going to niggle at you.
Right.
The rebel is not going to shut up. But if you say, okay, I hear you. You want a cookie. Let's see. How much of that cookie would you really need to have?
Right.
And you taught us this, and it was just it feels to me like a miracle. If you said, the rebel will answer, well, maybe half, and I'll be damned, you're satisfied with half.
Exactly.
It's a miracle. It's like, yeah, and that's what the inner coach does, is like shows respect for what the rebel wants and say, I'm not going to say no to you all the time, but let's just be reasonable.
Yeah.
And the same thing with the critic. And this was harder for me, but because I think my rebel was stronger, but my critic was there all the time, but I didn't really recognize it because I didn't know how to deal with it. And I thought, and it took me a long time. And you taught us to say, like, you're taking care of me. I appreciate it that you're looking out for me, but like, I got this. It's okay.
Right. Or maybe we don't need to go about it quite as extreme as you want.
Yeah.
We can figure out a different way.
Right. And having that conversation, it's funny. It's like, I don't feel that my inner coach is even stronger than my rebel or my critic. We just all work together.
I love that.
We just all work together because you're not going to just be your inner coach and those are gone.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen,
I think the thing that for consistency for long term, I think what you're talking about is very key, is like, you are always going to have a rebel. You are always going to have a critic. Those voices don't go away, but you learn to manage them. And I think your inner coach really gets very good at, one, recognizing those voices, two, being able, it's like coming in and being a nanny for a family. You got to learn the kids and what they want and they don't want, then you can...
Yeah, if I named sounds funny, but if I named my inner coach anything, it would be the mom. Kind, loving mom.
Yes.
That does a really good job, not like the critic mom. It's like the mom goes, honey, what do you want? I hear what you're saying,
Right. And figuring it out, yeah. It's so interesting. We, in COVID, our backyard is next door to a backyard of two little children and their mom is a doctor, and she's away a lot, so they have a nanny. And during COVID, they were home, and one of the girls is very high needs. Like, she's very, I don't want to call her a brat, but just like, very demanding. Right. And the other girl's, pretty well behaved. So, but it was very interesting to hear because this was a new nanny coming in and learning how to manage this girl. And now this girl loves her and she's so well behaved, but the nanny really listened to her. She's like, oh, okay, well, what is it that you want? Oh, okay. I could really hear her doing exactly what you were saying, Janet. It's just like learning to negotiate and learning to, allow that part of you to be heard, but at the same time saying, well, but how would that feel if we ate 3 cupcakes? Like, we probably wouldn't feel very good later. So what can we do? Can we have a healthier cupcake, or can we have a healthier option? Or if you have a cupcake, maybe we can have 3 bites, or half of it or something, and making it work out that way.
You were teaching us something about main dish salad. By having a salad and putting layers of vegetables and maybe a little bit of meat on top. And when I first tried it, I actually took some leftover steak, and I thought that in my head, probably that is not going to be enough.
Right.
And I guess the inner coach said, just try it. Just try it. And then I felt satisfied.
Right. Isn't that crazy? I know there's a part of us that is very afraid of not feeling full or not.
And that's what the inner coach can do, is like, just try it.
Just try it. We can always eat more if we need it.
Exactly.
Janet, I want to talk to you about, because I think it's super cool that now Janet has been shifting for a long time, but she started, I really feel like when people manage their weight, like, you changed the world, right? Like, your weight release has inspired other people in your life to get healthy, but you also then took on training as a Groove instructor. Can you tell us a little bit about Groove and your journey into becoming an instructor?
Well, okay, this is something I have to back up. We were talking.
Oh, yes, let's back up and you start where you need to.
Sometimes all the 9 skills are not working for you. When I was first in shift and I was working, getting the exercise in was very difficult. So I just decided, you know what? I'm going to focus on everything else. And it worked. But then when I was in maintenance, I couldn't get by with not exercising.
Right. You needed to.
My calorie allotment was pretty small. And I remember having conversations with you. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to exercise it because I can't live on that small amount of calories.
Yeah.
So that I needed to exercise so I could have a few more 100 calories to feel satisfied with my food,
Right.
So I started walking and I enjoyed that. And like I said, with the repetitive motion, I started having hip problems. And I was looking, and I've always loved dance. And I saw a thing on Facebook for this gal called Misty Tripoli offering these DVDs, and she did kind of like modern dance that I was interested in. I'm like, dang, this looks good. So I bought the DVD, and I just fell in love with it. And I got involved with, it was just weird. Serendipitous. I just bought the DVDs. They called me.
Oh, man.
If I would like to come to a filming.
Oh, my goodness.
I know. And it was a filming for a different thing. It was more of a conversation she has about her philosophy of life and stuff like that. But then we did dance afterwards. And I got hooked on that live experience of dancing there. And I found out about a live dance floor in Santa Monica that she was doing. And then later on in Culver City. And I'm like, once you get hooked, you just want to do it. And living up here in Wrightwood, and actually in LA proper, there aren't that many. They're worldwide, but for some reason they haven't grown that much here in LA. So I just decided, and they have facilitator training all the time, and I just made the decision, if I'm going to have it, I'm going to have to make it.
Right.
And so at my age, I went for the training, but that's part of the philosophy of the group too. Any age, any fitness, any body shape, anything, you can do it. You just modify for yourself. And of course, the facilitator will help modify too. But it's been fantastic. And I have been to a couple of other filmings since then, because now I'm on their list.
Yeah, you're one of their stars.
Fun to get together with the Groove family. And I don't know where to go from there.
Well, I know there's a couple of links that we're going to put in the show notes, and one of them is uh, Groove on Demand. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, that's kind of like what they started doing. They started putting those DVDs on the internet,
Uh-huh.
on, and they've just expanded from that.
Okay.
And all kinds of things. And those are some of the filmings. Like in March of 19, just before COVID hit, I went down and filmed, and through different units. And this one's called Body Live.
Mm-hmm.
So, not Body, excuse me, Groove Live.
Mm-hmm.
Body Groove Live. Anyway, so I'm in those, and I was just telling, I'm talking to the people, I guess, now, but I was
prior to this, you were telling me this funny story about you and abs.
He basically says you don't have to go to the gym or anything, but people are asking for ab work and for such. Okay, I'll give them what they want, And so they just have me go and film, and I'm there, and all of a sudden we're doing an ab workout, and I'm like, what? You go along with it, and afterwards I went up to her ab, and it was like 15 minutes. I go, I never in my life thought I'd ever be in an ab routine video.
You're an ab star, and you never. I love that.
But it's fun. The Body on Demand is really good. It's easy. I think they have a free trial, and it's only $9.99 a month.
That's so cheap. I know, for something that can bring you so much value.
Hundreds of different dance floor routines. Yeah, it's fantastic. And if you're interested, like I do a live dance floor here in Wrightwood, but if you're interested in that, there are some around the LA area.
Yeah.
And you have listeners all over, though.
Yes, all over the world, like as far as China and India and stuff like that. But so if it's international, where can they go to see if there's something near them?
Yeah, Groove is international too. They have a website, and you'll get it later, but the World Groove Movement. Mm-hmm. And you can go on there, and they have a class finder, and just punch in where you live and see. They'll let you know what live dance floors are around. And they're, most people, it varies, but around $10 a class. But that's the live experience and being there.
That's awesome. That's very inexpensive as well for a live experience. I mean, at least in LA, things are like $30 a class now.
Yeah. It's pretty. Yeah, it's addictive.
I know. I will, as you remember, when we did COVID and we did a shift, and you were doing some online groove for some of the shifters, and I did the class, and oh my gosh, it's so fun. And you pick out the greatest music, and it's just like it's what I love about groove is you do your own thing, right?
Yeah. I mean, we unite in some rhythm patterns, but then you just switch your way.
Yeah. It's so for those of you who want to do your own thing, but want a sort of a class and a formal structure, but are afraid of like doing something choreographed or just like formal. This isn't that. This is you moving your body the way you like to move, but with an instructor.
It's supposed to be, or you can do it sitting, you can do it supported.
Yeah,
and they do have a component called Young at Heart that they do in a lot of senior homes and things, and they do it in chairs. It's just.
I love that. Yeah, so you can do it with whatever mobility you have. You can make it work. I'm just looking at my questions now. Yeah, you've answered so many things. I can't thank you enough, Janet. Are there any other, is there any parting words of wisdom for somebody who might be on the fence about starting their own weight mastery journey, or any parting words of wisdom?
I think that, like I said, it's up to you to be committed. But that shift is a wonderful program. It's realistic, it's personalized, you make it your own. And I think that's, if you want to say magic of it, or what works, is because you end up making it your own.
Right.
And like I said, you decide which skills are the ones you want to focus on, how many of them, how limited, what works for you, and you learn such valuable skills. Well, you feel them and see them working in you, and that's the magic and the power of it. Then that's what makes you want to stick with it, because you see progress,
And it's a lifelong, like any skill set, like you're saying, it's it's a lifelong journey with the skills. It doesn't end.
Right. And like you think that, oh, when you're in maintenance, it's like magic and the world is wonderful. That struggle's gone. It's only gone if you're working it.
Yeah.
Because I have the same temptations.
Right.
You just know how to handle it better.
Right. You still have the same brain, like our brain. It's still, but yes, I agree with you. I think, one thing that I think you're kind of saying that I agree with you is the freedom comes from the consistency comes from this commitment to this is what works for me, so let me keep working it.
And something else too is that going through the program with you after you were always there. Mm-hmm. And I had hesitations, but then you had the monthly mastery program, and I just said, I'm just signing up. That's my safety net.
Right. Yeah.
I know if I get in trouble, I can always go to you for help, or to the group for help.
Right. Yeah. That we're here and we're holding the space for each other. That we're holding our mastery space for each other. Absolutely.
Right. Right. And that's you talked about, like, how do I get back on track? That's it. Like when there's a challenge of monthly mastery, or if I feel like I'm getting off track, oops, maybe I better start actually tracking my food again.
Right.
And because sometimes you don't, and then, I remember when I first had lost my weight, I felt this is magic, but then I realized, no, I'm working it. But my mindset makes it easier.
Yeah.
That's what makes it feel like magic. But it's
right.
Then you come into problems, you're like, oh, what the heck happened here?
Well, I think the distinction of what you're talking about, because I definitely think that it's a transformational journey, and the transformation isn't about what you're doing, but it's about who you're being, and that you're creating something rather than taking something away. I think the main thing with our fear about diets is it's like, oh my gosh, you're taking away my food, and you're taking away. And I think you're a creative person, Janet, and weight mastery is a creative journey because you're always creating.
Well, the other thing too is, the program, what sold me on your program in the beginning too is permanent weight loss. Mm-hmm. That's what I was like. I'm a great dieter. I can lose weight so easy. The yo-yo dieter, up and down, up and down, up and down.
Right.
And I just, because of the hypnosis, because of the mindset and everything, this is it. This is the last time I'm releasing weight. That's it. It's over. I'm done with it. But, like I said, you work it. But, like, I just feel I'm never going to gain all of it back.
Right.
Like I did many times in my life, and I hated that, and I hated that I was a yo-yo dieter, but one thing I will compliment myself on, I never gave up.
You kept going. And, they say, like, the people who are masters like yourself, a lot of them gain and lose over 250 pounds before they finally kick it into gear and get to that place. And that as a teacher, like, kids struggle with learning, and then they get that click, and then they're kind of off to the races. So, well, it has been such a joy and a pleasure to interview you, Janet, and thank you again for all of your service to the Shift Weight Mastery community. Janet has coached so many shifts and helped so many students go through this process, and you've changed a lot of lives, so I really appreciate that about you as well.
Well, thank you, and thank you for creating this. This is, it's been your dedication.
Right. Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
A solution, a way, for this to work for all of us who are out here struggling and trying to find those things that work, and it actually works.
Well, thank you, Janet. That's a great place for us to stop, but thank you very much. Well, I hope you got a lot from Janet today and are inspired to join us for the upcoming online process, and I'm going to be guiding it, And if you have any questions, please email me at rita@shiftweightmastery.com or check out the link with all the information you should need in the notes below. There is an awesome discount, by the way, and lots of wonderful value-packed bonuses. So that is it for this episode. Have an amazing week. And remember that the key, and probably the only key to unlocking the door of the weight struggle, is inside you. So keep listening and find it. If you want to dive deeper into the mindset of long-term weight release, head on over to www.shiftweightmastery.com. That's www.shiftweightmastery.com, where you'll find numerous tools and resources to help you unlock your mind for permanent weight release, tips, strategies, and more. And be sure to check the show notes to learn more about my book, From Fat to Thin Thinking, Unlock Your Mind for Permanent Weight Loss.